Hello and welcome to this episode of RPGGamer Top 5s. A few months ago I did my choice of the top 5 RPGs on the Commodore 64, and since I did that list, I've spent endless time being reminded, or just remembering, many of the great games on the system which I never mentioned. So, we're back with more top 5 RPGs on the Commodore 64. Because we did the details of the system last time, there's no need to go over that again. So let's get on with the countdown, so you can get on with reminding me even more C64 games I've forgotten. At number 5, Fantasy by Strategic Simulations Incorporated in 1985. Based on the Isle of Gelnor, Fantasy allows a group of 6 characters to adventure the countryside and try to defeat the evil Black Knights and their sorcerer leader Nicodemus. Players can choose to be one of 6 character classes: Thief, Fighter, Ranger, Monk, Priest and Wizard, and can also choose between the races of Human, Dwarf, Halfling, Elf or Gnome. By selecting random, one could also choose from Ogre, Troll, Pixie, Gnoll, Orc, Lizardman, Minotaur, and other races. With more than 50,000 copies sold in North America, Fantasy was very successful for SSI. It was also the company's best-selling Commodore game as of late 1987. And at number 4, Demon's Winter by Strategic Simulations Incorporated in 1988. Demon's Winter is a sequel to SSI's 1986 game Shard of Spring, and is set 200 years after the events of the original. Featuring a game world 32 times the size of the previous one, the evil sorceress Siriadne has been slain, the Shard of Spring has been recovered, and peace and prosperity return to the fantasy island of Yrmiros. 2 centuries later, however, great numbers of aggressive monsters have suddenly appeared, devastating the region and its inhabitants. A party of 5 adventurers must band together in order to combat this threat. Starting only with meagre skills and supplies, after a kobold attack on the now ruined village of Ildren, ultimately they must uncover the source of the beasts, as well as the unnatural cold that plagues the land, and ultimately put an end to both. And at number 3, Sid Meier's Pirates by Microprose in 1987. This was the first game to include the name Sid Meier in its title, in an effort by Microprose to attract fans of Meier's earlier games, most of which were combat vehicle simulation games. This game is a simulation in the life of a pirate, a privateer or a pirate hunter in the 16th, 17th and 18th centuries. Pirates is set in the Caribbean and includes the Spanish Main, Central America and the Yucatan Peninsula, the entire Gulf of Mexico, Florida and all the Caribbean islands, plus Bermuda. The player is free to sail to any part of the above-mentioned islands, stopped by an invisible barrier southeast of Trinidad, all the way north to just northeast of Bermuda. It's a single-player open-world game. The player receives a letter of marque authorizing service as a privateer for the Spanish Empire, the Dutch Republic, the Kingdom of England, or the French colonial empire in the Caribbean. The player's loyalties may change over the course of the game. They may also hold rank with multiple countries and may turn to piracy at any time. Gameplay is open-ended. The player may choose to attack enemy ships or towns, hunt pirates, seek buried treasure, rescue long-lost family members, or even avoid violence altogether and seek to increase their wealth through trade. The game also has no predetermined end, although as time goes by, it becomes more and more difficult to recruit crew members. As the player character ages, fighting becomes more difficult, and deteriorating health will eventually force the character into retirement. The game ends when the player retires, at which point they are given a position in their future life, from beggar to king's advisor, based on the accumulated wealth, land, rank, marital status, and other accomplishments. At number 2, Master of Magic by Mastertronic Added Dimension, MAD, in 1985. Released as a budget title at pocket money prices by Mastertronic under its Mastertronic Added Dimension label, the player controls an unnamed hero who has been dragged into a strange world by Thelric, the Master of Magic, while they were exploring underground caverns. Thelric is looking for an amulet which will provide him with immortality, and, having taught the hero just a few spells, sets him on a quest to find this artifact. With no real instructions or background information, you're thrown into an RPG as you explore, which reveals the dungeon you're trapped within through a fog of war. Perhaps the first game I was aware of this feature in. The play area on the screen is tiny, with around half the screen given over to large, colourful, but fairly useless images of the creatures that you fight. All of the action is accompanied by an absolutely stunning piece of music by Rob Hubbard, the absolute master of the Commodore 64's SID chip. An amazing game for a budget price. This is an absolute classic. And before we get to number 1, some notable mentions. Legacy of the Ancients by Electronic Arts in 1987. The player takes on the role of a young shepherd who finds and loots a recently dead body while on a first trip to the city, taking a black disc, a bracelet, and a leather scroll. The Galactic Museum mysteriously appears to the player after collecting these items. The player learns that by taking these items, he has become the next in a line of adventurers attempting to destroy the Wizard's Compendium, the leather scroll the player picked up. The museum has various display cases that require the insertion of special coins of various types to access. Some coins can be bought in random encounters with NPCs, some can be found as loot after combat, and some coins can only be found at the bottom level of various dungeons, meaning the player cannot proceed beyond a certain point until that dungeon is finished. Might and Magic Book 1, The Secret of the Inner Sanctum, by New World Computing in 1986. The game is set on the world of Varn, which features expansive outdoor terrain, castles, caves, underground cities, and an astral plane. The game centres on 6 adventurers who are trying to discover the secret of the Inner Sanctum, a kind of Holy Grail quest. While trying to discover the Inner Sanctum, the heroes discover information about a mysterious character named Korak and his hunt for the missing villain, Shelton. Although it appears to take place in a straightforward medieval fantasy setting of knights in armour, mythical monsters and magicians, a number of science fiction elements are revealed later in the game, down to the actual meaning of Vard, vehicular astropod research nacelle. Archon, The Light and the Dark by Electronic Arts Areola Soft in 1983. Archon is similar in concept to chess, in that it takes place on a board with squares. But, instead of fixed rules when landing on another player's piece, an arcade-style fight takes place to determine the victor. Also unlike chess, each side has different pieces with ranging abilities. These abilities are enhanced when landing on a square of one's own colour. Although not really an RPG, it does use fantasy elements, and could almost be a version of chess in a fantasy world. And at number 1, Times of Law by Origin in 1988. An early game by Chris Roberts, better known as the creator of the Wing Commander franchise, and the current game Star Citizen. Times of Law is a top-down fantasy game where you take part of a barbarian, a knight, or a Valkyrie, and you must explore the world in a similar fashion to the Legend of Zelda series. With a compelling storyline where your birthright as the true heir to the crown is revealed, it was also a stunning technical achievement, featuring 13,000 screens of map, according to the promotional material. There is no loading during the game, which was quite a feat for the time for such a massive environment. The Commodore 64 version features high-res overlays for the sprites, a technique that employs 2 sprites on top of one another, one being a low-resolution multicoloured sprite and the other high-resolution monochrome sprite. Animated water is also used, and the game world slowly changes colour between night and day. But it also introduced a huge number of side quests, with you being able to seek out a returning axe similar to Mjolnir, find the hidden city of Trila, find a dragon in the north, and open catacombs which, if the player enters them, releases a tide of undead on the world, increasing difficulty in the game vastly. I played this game to death at the time, searching out every secret, finding the hidden paths through the forests which cut down travel time, found all the magical items, before eventually my barbarian became king. The plot took my breath away, as although it seems obvious now, to a teenager Freddy, it wasn't like anything I'd ever played before. An RPG which played like an arcade action game, which had an absolutely absorbing storyline. When I completed it, I never went back to it. Its story was told. It's hard to go back to some old games, because they never live up to the memories. But Times of Law took over my life for months in 1988, and I cherish the memories it created. And that's it for our list of more top 5 Commodore 64 RPGs. So what did you think? Any ones we've still missed? Any favourites you'd like to suggest? Let us know either in the comments by getting in touch with us, so we can get around to making a yet more top 5 Commodore 64 RPGs list. Anyway, as always, many thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like what we're doing. but most of all, you look after yourselves. And we'll catch you later. Bye.